Where did this roll it?
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague.
What's going on, everyone? This is Matt, SqueakyClean here. Today we are going to be working on, or starting to work on my Civic's trunk setup. I'm going to do a hardwood setup or laminate setup from like dark style laminate, kind of a hardwood for it. And I'm going to have dual compressor setup. I think with a 2.5 gallon tank or a 4 gallon, haven't decided yet. Definitely a dual compressor setup. And we're going to be running the SqueakyClean air management that by default it allows to run dual compressor setup because of the relay and stuff and the way it's set up. So, but today what we're going to do is we're going to be doing the subframe for it, and starting with the subframe, and then I guess we'll continue it in multiple parts and post it up as we go. Okay, so what I usually do, my subframe setups or the base frames, basically to lay the hardwood on, because I never do it over carpet, because you do need some overhead, and you need overhead for the fittings to fit through, especially if you're doing hard lines through the floor. For this particular setup, that's what it's going to be. So what I like to do is I like to buy 2x3s, cheap, Home Depot. They're not really true 2x3s anymore. They're all kind of put together. The days of wood being like one single piece is gone. They basically offshoots that they kind of glue together, but this is what it is these days. And I have some 2x4s remaining. I might use these as bracing or whatever, but I'm trying to basically get rid of some of the wood in the garage. And what a perfect opportunity to create a subframe for the trunk. I recommend doing subframes on a lot of the hardline setups, because that also elevates the trunk itself. It separates sort of like whatever you have underneath, whether it's a spare wheel, tire, or anything like that, and sort of gives you a nice solid foundation to lay any sort of hardwood or any sort of panels that you later want to do, and also elevates it. So if you want to do a wheel well setup with LEDs and stuff like that, I'm not too crazy on those. I don't mind doing those, but I kind of like to keep my spare tire inside the car, so I never really do spare tire setups. But I think I'm going to incorporate some LEDs for this particular setup, just to kind of liven up the Civic. Yeah, that's where it is. This sucker over here, finally getting some attention, and finally going to change up the AirX setup in there, which is basically the box, and do something custom using our suspension. So yeah, so I like to use 2x3s. And we're going to cut these up and start sort of laying the foundation for the trunk. Yeah, so nothing very exciting in this trunk. Yeah, we definitely need to make it a little bit nicer. I need to sand this up, smooth it out, and probably paint it in some black paint. It's not too bad. I thought it was rust. Maybe get new rubber. I'm not going to worry about that for now. Eventually, I guess I'll end up getting it, but get new rubber seal, maybe, see if I can source one out. That would be pretty good if I could do that. It'll look a little bit cleaner, but definitely remove this, which I'm going to do probably right now in a second, and clean this up, sand it through, probably wet sand it or sand it with a sander, and then just give it a nice light coat of paint to kind of clean it up. Yeah, this is what it is right now. It's an AirX setup in there. They're not bad. These AirX setups are not bad. I mean, you know, it's cool because it's in a box, and it's easy to connect. But at the end of the day, like, this looks really dated. Who does these kind of setups these days? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you know, like, look at the manifold is like old school manifold. It's reliable, don't get me wrong. These skids are super reliable, but they're just outdated looking. Like, you got a microchip board there, you got a manifold, a whole bunch of wires, a compressor, and you know, so time to kind of upgrade it and take it to the 21st century. It served its purpose. It was great for what it was. I mean, it still works. I'm going to probably use it as a backup system, but we need to kind of get up into the 21st century and do something more custom. So this is pretty much before, like, Yeah, I mean that's from oil proofing. I had this car oil proof, so I think when they were spraying the trunk, they didn't really, you know, do a good job on it. So the carpet's kind of like crappy looking. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to also remove the carpet, and I'm going to dye the carpet or spray paint the carpet. That way it's nice and clean, or maybe just the base. I think just the base is bad. Well, no, the sides over here are bad as well too. So these need to be cleaned up. Well, work never stops on these cars. But anyways, this is going out, and we're going to do a subframe today. So I'm going to disconnect it because the car is aired out right now. I kind of like the nice slant on it right now. Going camber gang a little bit here, so this is clean, but yeah, here we go. And yeah, so let's start up on this thing. Okay, so I took out all the RX air suspension. There's still the ground here. I'm gonna probably change it up to something a little bit better. I'm not really liking the way I mounted it previously. I'm gonna clean that out, and it's got a nut and bolt, so it's at least solid, but I'm gonna use a slightly better quality cable and a better sort of a way with a crimp connector, and that way it'll give me a much more solid ground to connect the dual compressors that I'm going to be running, and of course main system ground for the management as well. And that should be okay. But basically now I have a clean slate that I can start to, because I want to keep the spare wheel, which is over here, but the wheel well is huge. Like, to do a custom trunk setup on an EK Civic or EK Coupe, it's insane. Look how much space there is. You can literally go to town, but as I said, I like keeping my spares, so I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to do it on top. Get rid of, the lines are running here, so it's okay. I'm going to clean that up a little bit, but get rid of this. This is kind of useless, because now that I'm going to do a subframe, I'll be able to put a flat piece underneath and sort of keep it nice and clean. But I might do it in 2 or 3 pieces. I might keep this center piece, which I might probably actually keep the center piece and then just sort of do 2 side pieces, because then it'll be a lot easier for me to remove the whole trunk setup. Most of the way I do my trunk setups is I do them in a way where I can remove the whole setup as a whole, so I can put it on a bench, and then I can troubleshoot it if I have any leaks. I mean, I use compression fittings, and I bench test it anyways once I do it. So 9 times out of 10 it doesn't leak. But for those odd times that it might leak, or I want to service it or whatever, or just change compressors with age, it's probably better to do it on one main base that you're able to remove, and then you're able to you know, service on and then put it right back in. So kind of keeping this in the middle and then having 2 side pieces would be probably a good idea, because then it'll allow me to sort of, you know, put it a little bit more modular. The only thing I got to worry about is I got to kind of have an offshoot piece here, because I'm going to be running the planks not horizontal. I'm going to be running the planks vertical. That way I'll be able to arrange them a lot nicer. So what I might end up doing is one of the planks, I might just have it going up here, or I might just do the centerpiece. I believe this is actually this is probably right in the center. From the looks of it, this is probably right in the center. So maybe what I'll do is I'll do just a hardwood piece in center, and then the side pieces I'm going to do sort of parallel with material, or with carpet, black carpet. It'll probably you know, once I actually dye this carpet on the outside to black, or a spray paint that I haven't decided yet, probably a fabric dye. Then what I'll do is maybe I'll do the main section in hardwood, and then the 2 side pieces I will do in black carpet, so it'll kind of go in, and then that way later, what I might end up doing is actually fill these sides with fiberglass enclosures, and have the 2 subs on the sides if I ever decide to do audio. But I'm not really in a rush to do audio, so we're just gonna sort of do the hardline setup. I don't know, maybe I'll mount the tank on the trunk. It's easy to mount the tank on the trunk, because you can just run the main lines through here. I don't know. It'll really open it up, but I want to kind of run the hard lines from the trunk, so maybe not. Maybe I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to have the 2 compressors, and I'm going to have the manifold setup, because there's plenty of space in this trunk, so I think I should be okay. So we're probably going to end up doing that. So stay tuned. I'm gonna actually start building the frame though, to start laying the hardwood. And for the next vlog, I'm actually gonna I think do the hardwood on top. We'll see. Yeah, okay, so here we go. This is basically the subframe that I've made for the Civic. One word of caution was when you're designing these, make sure you're able to take them out. This one's a little bit hard to put in, but it is removable. So you just need a little bit of wiggling up and you can remove it. So that's the base. Subframe made out of 2x3s. This will allow me to elevate it and give enough space for the fittings, and also give a nice solid sort of backing for putting in hardwood and stuff like that. But what we're going to do is, I got some laminate. I'm going to go with this laminate. But for 23 bucks a case, can't go bad from Home Depot, you know what I mean? And I brought some, what is it, a 1/4 inch MDF that I'm going to cut out. It's going to be the main sort of plate that's to mimic the factory cover. So we're going to lay the hardwood on top of that, but instead of going with the actual shapes, here I'm going to lay the hardwood parallel to the trunk. So stay tuned, and I'll show you guys in a second what I'm going to be doing with this. Okay, so we did the subframe in the trunk. This is what I traced out the actual panel. This is the trace out of the factory Civic sort of a wheel well cover that I traced out of, what is it, 1/8 inch, or no, 1/4 inch MDF. I threw away the original factory one because it was sagging and it was dirty and it was full of oil, so I decided just to make one somewhat close to what the factory one is. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm not doing a restoration again. I'm just doing a custom setup here. And right about now, I'm using that sort of as the main center template of how the trunk is set up. And I'm laying out my my new laminate I just picked up for 23 bucks. I gotta tighten that up a little bit. Here, it's nice and tight. And what's gonna happen is I'm trying to sort of have it the width of that panel right at the edges. I'm gonna have to obviously trim it as best as possible. Maybe do a little bit of an overhang here, but trim it around here to sort of follow the shape, because this is how the trim of the actual trunk is set up. So I want it to be sort of as close to the trim as possible. I gotta double check though whether these cutouts actually coincide with what the trunk is, because it might just be that like a flat surface like that might just be enough. But this is sort of the laminate that I chose. It goes well with the gray, kind of matches. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going to be laying out the laminate all the way through, sort of to get an idea, and then I'm going to lower down the car and sort of figure out whether I can just do a straight sort of a panel here, or whether this flows with the actual design of the trunk. I got to double check. I don't remember off by heart, but so far so good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Wow, I literally got lucky. I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planks inside the box. And literally all 7 kind of just cover the centerpiece of the Civic perfectly. Which is nice, because then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this edge over here. So I don't have that nasty overhang, so it's just flat. So I'm going to put that through a table saw. This I will keep as is. But the reason why I went with 1/2 inch MDF is because this is going to be sort of the support. I will attach the MDF, I don't know, maybe glue it, maybe hot glue it, or maybe glue it on, wood glue it on to the laminate. I haven't decided yet, or I'm just going to screw it through. I got to find out if I have the screws. I'll probably just screw it through, because that has a nice thick backing. It's really nice here. What I might do is I might first sort of put glue over it, and wood glue, and then kind of leave it overnight and clamp it. And then what I'll do is I'll just trim around the edges, trim here, and have it done. But this is going to be sort of the centerpiece of where my tank is going to sit. My compressors and my manifold. That's going to be sort of my hardline setup. And then the sort of edge pieces that would normally go with this nasty carpet. Oh my god, look at this thing. This is disgusting. I guess I could clean it, but I could just basically cut it out of the carpet piece. But so this is basically how the overhang is, or the width of the actual thing. So I need to trim probably over here, I believe. Yeah, this is where it protrudes right in case of the carpet. But these side pieces over here, I'm going to figure out, and these sort of like this sort of outline, I'm going to do out of carpet. So they're going to be like little side panels that are going to attach, and they're just going to basically sit right beside this main panel over here. It's just so it's a little bit different. So not the whole trunk setup is basically laminate. It's just the centerpiece is laminate, and the surrounding pieces, which is the trim pieces over here, I'm either going to do from like Alcantara, black Alcantara, or I'm just going to do sort of black carpet, just to have a clean base. But the bread and butter, the tank, the dual compressor, fire compressors, the manifold, and all the hard lines are going to go in through the wood floor, and that's that. So I think the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how I'm going to secure these planks onto the MDF board, most likely with glue, wood glue. I'm probably going to have to get some wood glue tomorrow before they lock down everything, because Omicron is getting really wild in Canada, so they're going to be doing lockdowns starting on Sunday. So I got to stock up on some wood glue. Mind you, even if we have a pandemic and we have lockdowns, you know, they're going to 50% capacity, so it's not going to be that bad. So we'll still be able to get stuff. And I mean, wood glue I can always get on Amazon, so it's never an issue. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wood glue it on first, and then I'm just going to nicely trim sort of the edges, turn it around, and kind of like trim the edges from the back using a jigsaw, and that'll be nice and clean. Or I'm going to keep it like this and take a marker, and I think maybe do an outline from underneath, and that way I'll know how much I need to trim. That's another idea. Or what I might do is I might well, if I trim from the top here and I put a piece of tape, I'm going to have a nice clean edge. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down on the floor, or sorry, lay this down on the table, and then put the MDF on top of it and sort of trace it out. Yeah, that's probably better. And then where I think is going to be the cuts or somewhat, I'm going to put the tape over. Then I'm going to trace it out with the pieces of tape, so that way I'm able to kind of trace out on the masking tape. And when I'm using a jigsaw to cut out the actual shape, I'm going to use it, and that way by using the jigsaw on the tape or through the tape, it's going to give me a cleaner edge. So I think I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so good news. So this is what I meant. I'm going to basically tape around here in order to create the outline on the tape, so then I can have a nice smooth cut when I'm cutting using a jigsaw. But in regards to this sort of like a pivot that's around here, I don't think it really applies in my case. I'm probably going to be able just to basically keep this panel flat without doing any sort of modifications or cutting this cutout. I think this is traced off of the factory one, and I think the reason why that is because the factory cover goes around here on this spot over here. So it goes sort of around and it curves around these little dimples and over here. So that's why they kind of did it factory cut. But in my case, I'm just putting a flat panel that goes around here. So I don't think it really actually matters very much in regards to it, is because the centerpiece, which is basically the width of that centerpiece, which is over there, doesn't really, I don't believe, adheres as much unless there's a little bit of an indent. You know what I'm going to do? I'm probably going to take that piece and I'm going to double check to see whether it adheres better with the trunk. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so as predicted, the middle panel will kind of sit like that. It doesn't look like it goes around very much. So I'll be able to sort of have the width of it. Whoops, let's focus in. I'll have the width of it and put the laminate over it, because I really only want the center part to sort of have have the laminate through, and then the side panels, like I said, are going to be on the sides over here. I'm going to measure up, and I'm going to have them done with a different way, maybe sort of like a beauty panel that will go over there and attach right beside it. But the laminates are going to go on the edges over there. Now I need to leave a little bit of an overhead on, there's a plastic trim that goes over here. I kind of resined it. I kind of spray painted it with black paint, but I put black resin over it, sort of for a glossy finish. It's basic sort of like two-part epoxy resin that I put on there that I normally use for carbon fiber overlaying. It's drying right now. It'll probably dry nice and clear tomorrow, so it looks a lot better than what it was because it was all scratched up before. So we'll see how it turns out. Kind of doing a little bit of an experiment here. But it's basically epoxy resin over paint. I'm not sure if it's going to be durable. It should be, because you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Other than that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some 4K clear. I'll send this all down, or get another piece from the scrapyard and do a base coat and a proper 4K clear on top of it, and it'll be finished. But this might actually turn out not too bad. Like, I mean, it's got a nice glossy finish to it, so we'll see. It's still kind of wet, so I'm waiting for it to sort of like dry up and see how well it dries up tomorrow, if at all. I'm not sure if it will, but it may or may not. There's a bunch of dust in it. I don't know. It's a bit rough, but we'll have to see. But anyways, once this dries, it's going to go over here. Unless what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up the scrapyard tomorrow maybe and get a piece from a coupe, hit coupe. I've seen some hit coupes at the scrappers, so we'll see how it works out. I don't know, maybe I'll get another spare or whatever. But I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to wait for it to dry, because that way I'll be able to sort of get a better idea on how much overhead I need to leave, because I guess if I use the laminate, I guess I could do it to the edge. Then this shouldn't be that much of an overhead there, because it'll kind of sit. I want to be able to kind of move this around in and out, because this is going to be the main sort of zoom is terrible with this freaking A52, but it goes out of zoom periodically and stuff like that. But the quality is decent. But I want to have that sort of as the main centerpiece to take out. That's why I'm reinforcing it with MDF, and I'm putting the hardwood over it, because the whole sort of management system, the tank and everything is going to sit on there, and then it's going to go through the floor, and then I'm going to connect the lines underneath. So I got to be able to sort of lift this up and down and elevate in order to plug in the lines or disconnect the wires and the cables for the compressors and for the main harness. So that's going to come in later stages, but for now we're just laying out sort of the groundwork. So I have it traced out, and now I'm going to be able to sort of cut it using a jigsaw, and it give me a nice sort of smooth edge, and that way I'll be able to not have any jagged edges on the corners. But I think this is going to be sort of my centerpiece over here, and it's just going to be some extras. I might use these for the side panels. I'll have to decide how long they are, but I have to make this cut. I'm going to make that cut with a jigsaw as well now. Okay, so I attached the laminate to the MDF base. It's nice and solid, which is what I like. Elevating the trunks is probably the best trick, really, because it gives you a solid subframe that you can sort of lay laminate or hardwood on top of. You don't have to worry about, you know, just laying the laminate on top of like the trunk carpet and then have waves and everything sort of warping. I mean, I could have used the new, instead of using real laminate, but I mean, $26 for this is pretty good. But I could have used the vinyl flooring. A lot of guys are starting to use vinyl flooring, which is even a lot more durable. But I always recommend doing sort of like a subframe, and then doing an MDF sheet, and then attaching the laminated hardwood or whatever you want to use, or the you know, the vinyl flooring right onto the MDF. That gives you solid, you know, rigidity. You can sort of lift this whole piece off, because what's going to happen is once I have my compressor on there and tanks, then I'll be able to lift this whole piece out basically with the whole setup if I want to do any kind of you know, any kind of like maintenance or anything like that. It's a bit tight over here. It's going to be really snug, and it's a little bit tight over here to where the seats are. But the beauty is if I take down the rear seats, I'm able to sort of push it out, and then I'm able to sort of lift it or kind of inspect, because the push to connects are actually going to be hidden underneath. and they're going to protrude sort of underneath, and then all the lines that are run to the sides over here. You can't even see the lines, eh? Nice. The lines that are over here that go under are just going to basically plug into the push to connects on the bottom. As I'm going to be designing the hardwood setup, sorry, the hardline setup, you guys are going to see exactly what I'm talking about. I'll show that to you in the next in the next video when I get to it. Obviously, I haven't gotten to it yet, but so far so good. This is a trunk so far, and yeah. So there you go.